Listeners, thank you for joining me this week for episode 24 with the Accountability Buddies podcast. My name is John, and this week I'm joined by
Dan.
Duncan.
Jack.
Jamie.
To get us started this week, I'll go ahead and kick off our hobby. Since purchases count, I made a little bit of a funny purchase. So many of y'all know that I have a militia army that is based on Cobra from G.I. Joe, and someone on eBay decided to list a giant Serpentor statue. It was a quarter scale, which completed this statue is almost 4 feet tall, but I just wanted part of it. And so the whole statue was listed for 99 cents with $100 shipping, and I went ahead and bid $30, and no one bid against me. So for 99 cents and $100 shipping, I am the proud owner of this toddler-sized Serpentor half statue. It came with Go ahead.
It's resin, right?
No, it's stone, polystone.
Polystone, okay.
And it's got magnets in every part of the joins. It came with Serpentor's body, the base of his chariot, his arms, his head, a cape that you could literally drape a child in. It's gorgeously painted. My plans are to make this basically like if the Christ at Rio fell into the city. So I want to make a whole city with broken Serpentor parts all over. Everyone's taking cover around things.
So you're going to build like a big hill to put it up on top of too?
No, I might put a hill that where it fell off of, like into the city.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, I definitely want this to be a more terrain-heavy table than some of the other ones. This was the first giant mistake I made this week. The other stuff I've been doing, I managed to get the Necromunda Ash Wastes building built for my Ash Waste vendor, and I'll be using this in heresy tables as well. I've been cleaning a whole bunch of extra Kickstarters and things like that I did for Reaper Bones and TT Combats, Battlefield accessories. There was another Kickstarter I did for resin city accessories called Black Rooster or something like that. It was a really weird company on Instagram that did a Kickstarter and then kind of disappeared. I also built my 3-story mega structure, which is going to be the town center on one floor, and then it's got a floor for stowage, and then the top floor is going to be for Astronomicon, for an astropath, and so it's going to be closed off and have a bunch of techie stuff in there. And then been clipping out Frontierist terrain. I clipped out all 30 sprues that I had together, and I'll be cleaning that as we talk tonight, and then kind of pushing things together to dry fit for all this terrain stuff going forward. My big goal is to have this finished by January because Michael, previous guest on the podcast, said that we're trying to get together the Great Texas event structure kicked off in January. So my hope is to debut this table at one of those events that comes out. So I'm kind of pushing myself there, but I think I can get it with enough time. But yeah, that's pretty much it for me. I'm having to find a spot for this giant toddler while I push it to the back burner and everything else comes up and gets worked on. So I will go ahead and kick it off to Jamie.
So I've got a lot going on home-wise here, so I haven't been able to get a whole lot done. But like John, I made some stupid purchases. I found out I had a bunch of hotel points that I'm never going to use expiring. And so I was able to convert those into two brand new Land Raider Proteuses for the grand total of $3.95 for both of them. So now I have 3 of them. I've also been working on actually painting the first one that I already got, which I think I went over the kit a little bit earlier on an earlier episode. It's basically just a mini Spartan, literally built like a mini Spartan. So it takes a while to build each. And so I've been prime, base coat, that kind of stuff. And then I've been painting some rhinos because, I already have hundreds of them. So trying to finish that off. Then because I couldn't find anything on my workstation where I paint, which is actually quite large, I actually cleaned and organized that and found stuff, and then realized it was missing some paints that I needed. So when I ordered them, and when I was there at the GW store ordering some airbrush paints because they don't stock them locally anymore, the remaining airbrush paints that the manager was getting rid of, he literally dumped them in a bag and gave them to me. So I got probably 15 different GW airbrush colors for free.
Nice.
So no complaints there. I think there was something else it did. I can't remember, but yeah, I got some stuff done. The painting is good, getting back on that. So I guess I will pass it off to Jack.
Hello, gentle viewers. This week I have accomplished playing some games. That's hobby progress, right?
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
Outstanding. I'm gonna pass it off to Dan then, because we're talking about the games a little bit later. That's called foreshadowing.
So let's see. The last time I had talked, I was focused on doing my Lork versus Lorgar dual piece. And I realized as I went through and looked at it and looked at poses that to do that right, I really wanted to repose Lorgar a lot better than I could with a single model. And so purchasing another model is not on the table right now. So I've pivoted in what I'm doing for my Golden Demon model. And on my shelf of opportunity, I have the Ixion Hail, which is the limited edition Custodes Tribune, I believe, or Captain Tribune, something like that model. I bought it at Adepticon a few years ago when he was a limited edition. So I have spent the last couple of weeks prepping him to paint him up. Easily the best model I have ever had, as far as no mold lines, just the very few support cleanups, everything cleaned up really well. Just gorgeous model. I'm really looking forward to painting him. So I got him ready, prepped, pinned, primed. Actually put the base color on the cloak last night. And then in the meantime, I picked up out of whim, the new Boba Fett model came out. Or not Boba Fett, I'm sorry. The Mandalorian model came out for Star Wars Legion. And so I picked him up and decided that I was going to do him up just as a fun display piece. I'm going to put him like on a 32 with one of the Grogu models. It says it comes with two poses for our alternate Grogu models, but it basically comes with two different Grogu models and just has two bases, because I guess in game you can only use one at a time. But so I'm going to do one of those up and Mandalorian, put him on a base just as a display piece. So I've been working on the non-metal metallic on him, and tonight sitting working on some of the leather and coat coloring and whatnot on the Mandalorian. So that's kind of where I'm at. Purchase wise, I did get I don't know, probably too many, but a big chunk of the Blood Angels Mark 6 helmets and shoulder pads. So when I get back to building and putting that model together, or that army together, I've got a bunch of that custom stuff. I really like those Mark 6 heads. I know they were pretty polarizing, and some people really didn't, some people did. I thought they were pretty cool. So I get a bunch of them. So they'll probably go. I'm thinking that they might even go on my Angels tiers, because I'm not a huge fan of the death mask models on those, and at least one assault squad and some other things, miscellaneous sergeants here and there, whatnot. So yeah, so that's what I've got. Let's see, Ned hasn't gone, right? It's the only one left. How we doing, Ned? What you up to?
Hey guys. Well, I am what am I working on? I've got some Night Lords in the wash, getting stripped. I'm went ahead and I've never tried the color wash paint, or not color wash. I'm sorry. What do they call it? The Green Stuff World color shift. Yeah.
Color shift. I was thinking not contrast.
Yeah. So I'm going to try that out, and I think that'll be fun. But I've got a bunch of Night Lords in the wash, washing out, getting rid of some blue that I had done before that I wasn't a fan of. Other than that, I've been pretty busy with. I've got a couple of Secret Santas. There's the one, which is just some things just came in the mail, and I've just got to put them out. But then I also have another Secret Santa group that they do painted HQ. So I've got my secret project for another group that I've just gotten sitting here, and it's soaking as well. And I'm hopefully going to start modeling those tonight for somebody else, which is fun too, because getting to paint models for a force that I never would probably want to do for myself, but just the experience of doing a different model. But it's a secret, because that listener, the gift recipient, is a listener, so can't let him know.
Cool.
Well, I guess that leaves me.
I
started working on a banner and a shoulder pad for my chieftains, and then I went and hung out with some friends over the weekend, and I played some games or 3. And that's all my hobby progress for like the past 2 weeks, realistically. I almost finished a banner, and I did finish a shoulder pad. Go me.
Way to go.
Really proud of all that.
Well, you also got a new toy though.
Yeah, I did. It finally showed up after like a year after I pre-ordered it, so it's okay. I don't know if I'm pretty sure Ned hadn't seen it yet, but hold on one second. Ned, I'll show this to you.
Sure.
Have you seen the movie Aliens?
Yeah. Oh, that's fun. That's cool.
Yeah, I'm now the proud owner of a Nerf M41A pulse rifle,
That's fun.
just like John is.
Yeah,
Just
I
like
will
you
say, keep it away from anyone that's interested in Nerf at all, because they will immediately fall in love with it. And even people that don't like Nerf and like guns will immediately fall in love with it, like my wife did. So she's trying to steal mine.
I have like 2 local friends who also got in on the pre-order. My buddies Justin and Shafe, because all 3 of us really just love the movie Aliens. So
I wasn't cool. I just have a Halo battle rifle, so
these things work.
I know.
So that's my entire hobby progress. What's up next on the agenda for us, gentlemen? Is it the news and drops that have come out?
Sure. Yeah, this shouldn't take us very long. The first drop, for Heresy Thursday this week, we got the actual first set of, I'm going to say, polarizing heads, because they're not terrible like previous heads were, and they're not good like previous heads were. They're really polarizing. So some people either like them or hate them. I haven't seen a meh among equals out there. So I personally like the Iron Hands heads that we got this week. They remind me a lot of the Thunderfire Cannon Tech Marine, where it's that kind of segmented armor sections coming down.
They kind of have a Fallout armor look
Yeah,
to them.
they did have a little bit of that Enclave power armor look to them. And then the everyone's calling it the helmetless head.
See, that's not what I'm calling that. I really think that other than the eyes, the face on it looks like Darth Vader after he's thrown the Emperor down the reactor shaft.
Yeah,
And he's got his helmet off, and he's just kind of like really pasty pale, and he's dying and breathing into that reed breather.
yeah, but
I
it's
really like the sergeant helmet with the plume being the cog gears. I thought that was a pretty cool helmet.
yeah, and a nice touch. Tie them back to the Mechanicum as well.
Yeah, I gotta admit that Mechanicum, or not the Mechanicum, but the cog-based plume on the helmet, that's definitely different.
I was just looking at the sergeant again, the helmetless one. He's got like fish eyes.
Yeah.
Like they blink sideways instead of.
Yeah, he's kind of oddball like that.
But overall, I'd say it's probably one of the better sets of Mark VI helmets that they've put out, and they're not
Easily
like
agree.
they're not really beaky. I mean, they do come out a little bit, but like they don't have like a snout like a normal beaky helmet. So.
No, I
Yeah.
wouldn't have a problem seeing those on regular Marines, like Mark II,
Yeah.
Mark III, Mark IV, etc.
That's
Yeah,
actually something. That's something I was going to say, was just the fact that it doesn't. I mean, I like the heads personally. I would never have an Iron Hands force, but man, you could put those on almost any mark of armor, I feel
Yeah.
like.
They're
And
really
it looks enough like the Legion that it really doesn't matter where you put it. It's going to look good.
you could really use them with like any Legion as like almost like a Tech Marine helmet if you really
Yeah, it's true,
wanted
too.
to. So
That's a really good point. I absolutely do not hate anything about these heads. I think that these heads are a perfect knockout of the park for Iron Hands, period.
so you
Put that
have
on the-
you
They
have
do it
on the
space
sale.
you have Space Wolves on this side, and then you have these on the other side of the line.
You do?
Yeah, they remind me a lot of that Ultramarines tank driver character's helmet that came out a while ago.
Ooh, I had not thought about that in a long time, but yeah, I think you're right.
Yep.
Yeah,
The one for like the HQ tank.
Yeah.
Kronos?
Okay.
Yep, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, that's pretty much all the reveals we got this week. As far as drops, obviously this week was the release of the Liber Imperialis for everyone not in the North American hemisphere. Although digital files are available for everybody. Hopefully we'll be getting the book soon and won't be as long a wait like the Mechanicum book was. The Predator, the more shooty versions of the Predator dropped as well, and that's it. We've even got Sunday's preview for next week is going to be a bunch of old timey fantasy models. So if you're looking for maybe some sorcerers or some librarians for your force, that could be some things out there.
Demons too, I guess.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, those familiars with the Melty Bird Man.
Yep.
Another one. That's pretty much all those releases. Anyone else see anything that tripped your trigger?
I mean, I know this is a Horus Heresy podcast, but that Squig box coming out in December, it sings to me.
It's awesome.
It sings to me. So I don't know anything about the game. Don't know how good they are. It's a lot of cool squigs in one box. So, you know.
I know when I was in the GW store yesterday, I mean, they actually had a huge crowd in there, and I was talking to them about the boxes for Christmas, and they're like, just about every one of them was just like geeking out over that Squig box. They're just like, got it. Don't play fantasy or Sigmar, but like, I gotta have that. Like, it's just.
That's pretty funny.
Did we, jumping back to heresy stuff, did we talk? I know we talked about that the assassins were resin and were coming for Forge World, but did we talk about that they ended up dropping at $45 a piece?
It's like, 45 or 47 are ridiculous.
When did individual models get to that point? Because that's a little steep for me.
I mean, like HQs or something. I mean, like obviously character series are usually a lot more than that. I mean, like some of the Primarchs are upwards of almost $200 now.
If you get, I guess if you get like one of the new plastic range models, you're looking at like 35. For like a Space Marine captain or something. So I mean,
that's kind of where I was. I mean, in my mind, one of those models to paint up and maybe use here or there or not is in the $35 price point. It's not in the $47. And I know $12 is $12, but for an individual model, that's. I mean,
how much were those? That was it. The Imperial Fist and the Blood Angel that the GW stores got before, like. A lot of the heresy stuff came out, like the blister packed ones. Were those 35?
Yeah,
it was.
And so I bought one of those early, thinking that they were going to be kind of limited, and you wouldn't be able to get one. And then I walked into the Games Workshop store to get the store anniversary model, that new Inquisitor model, which I finally got. That's a really cool model, by the way. But they had another one sitting on the shelf, and I had hacked mine up and used it for bits and other things. So I went ahead and picked up another one of those. Was it Zephon, right?
Yeah, Zephon and Ron and even Gygor Felhand are all $33.50. So
really,
those models, considering how bulky some of those are, for assassins being $43 for those, and the other assassins are $38 in plastic. So it really doesn't make sense that those ones are so much more expensive.
Yeah.
Is it just? I mean, are we just saying resin or new model syndrome? I mean,
I think that's probably a lot of it is new model syndrome when you consider. I mean, no one's going to have something for these. Although,
sure,
some of the Anvil stuff that I've picked up throughout the years does look pretty close to some of the assassins. So that's probably what I'll be using.
I mean. Little cyberpunk games or whatever, you could easily proxy something if you wanted to.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, I like some of those sculpts. I'm not sure that I have a force that I would use them in, but I like the Infocyte one. I like that one.
I've seen some events saying that traders can go ahead and use the assassins as well, because there's mention in that book about they're coming up with trader assassins.
Oh.
I mean, I've got an old Eldar Psyker model that I've got painted up that I would use in my Necromunda for my weird model. I mean, if you're doing a psychic assassin, you might as well just pop him down on the table, right? I mean, I know it's heresy adjacent enough that why not, right?
Well, how much is that Necromunda Delac Spiker model, which is just like Mega Mind? Because if that guy's $45, that's okay. He's worth it because that dude is art right there.
That's
the guy that doesn't have a helmet over his giant mind, but has a crotch armor, right?
Yeah.
And a custom made cape. He's got a little capelet like Lando.
I would agree that I think maybe the price on these assassins is a little high. Especially considering, I don't know, I've not looked at them too much. It's something I'm hoping to do this week, but I've heard a lot of middling things about what they're going to do for you on the battlefield, too.
The Spiker is 38, and most Necromunda characters are 38. None of them even come close.
Huh. Interesting.
Well, yeah, and like a lot of the hired guns are 3 for 40.
Yeah, and it's something that you're not
42.
going to need. You're only going to get one of because it's a hired gun, much like the assassins are themselves. So if they were trying to make the logic of, well, you just need one, so it's going to be a little more expensive, that doesn't work.
It doesn't work either, does it?
There's a couple bounty hunters that look like they're 42, but
So have y'all heard about Joy Toy?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, their models are only $50. That's all I'm throwing out, and they're like 12 inches tall.
No, they're not.
How tall are they?
They are 4 and 5 inches. They're all GI Joe scale.
They're GI Joe scale. Yeah.
Okay.
Because my brother has bought. He's a GI Joe honk, probably on a bigger degree than John is, and he's got like a whole not Death Corps Supreme. He's got a bunch of the Space Marine ones already.
Okay, a GI Joe scale model is still only $50 for this Forge World resin
Right.
model is.
I mean, if
50
you, I mean, there's, if we want to go into toy collecting, trust me, we can be here all night talking.
Yeah,
about
it's trust
This
me.
is-
insanely expensive, but yeah, it's. I mean, this is our hobby. It's obviously, you can do golf, you can do actual guns. There's a whole bunch of more expensive real hobbies out there, but we kind of have beaten this horse a little bit.
We keep doing that. We're talented.
Yeah, it's going to happen. It's like the FAQ. We're going to complain about it till we
So
get it.
I'm looking right now. Most of the Necromunda models though are $34, with a couple of the multi model sets are $39.50, $38.50, and then Megamind is $38.
I can actually say that the fact I was able to cite to that fact multiple times this past weekend.
Oh yeah.
Yep, multiple times, and each time I said this fact is a joke. That was how I cited back to the fact. I just wanted to put that out there.
So before we jump into that main topic, we've got a couple other little topics to discuss. The first one, I'm going to give it over to Jamie to talk about our upcoming Toys for Tots auction. That'll be coming before the next episode drops, probably.
Yeah, probably should. Just with the way we edit and everything. So again, I've already talked about it before. I won't beat it to death, but our Death Guard Toys for Tots auction is coming up Thanksgiving week in the United States. I know Canada's is a different week, but it's the week of November, was it 22nd?
Yep.
21st. So I'm going to try my best to put the auction up on either Monday night or on Tuesday. Just depends on everything going on here at home. But so the auction will end that following weekend after the USA Thanksgiving. So like the weekend of the 26th and 27th. It's a fully painted, super awesomely painted at that Death Guard Army. If you've seen it, I know I've put pictures up a couple times on on our Facebook page. Lots of them. If there's any questions, hit me up or hit one of the other hosts up, and they can relay it to me. It's already all boxed up, super well boxed up in foam and bubble wrap. So like literally as soon as I get paid, or as soon as we get paid, like I will put it in the mail and have it shipped out the same day. So you'll have it well before Christmas. You wanted to do something like I haven't re-added the points total up, but it's easily 2,500, if not 3,000 points when you start adding goodies in on everything. So if you can, spread the word out. And if you really like Death Guard, it's a great jumping in spot if you don't have any of them.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Jamie. It's a bit early, a bit often, and know that it's going to a good cause.
I forgot. So yeah, it's going to Marine Corps Reserves Toys for Tot charity, which that money goes to buying toys for unfortunate or needy children, which nobody's going to argue with that. So
yeah, and if you do digging, Toys for Tots is actually one of the better charities to give to, as far as like dollars to actually use. Cool. So I think the next real topic that we were going to discuss a little bit tonight is something that's really been afflicting all of us in different ways this time of year. Really is kind of the worst for it, is hobby burnout. So I know, with this terrain, I've been kind of slogging a little bit through it. I really kind of died a lot on it early on, mainly because I wasn't seeing any real progress. It was just clipping and cleaning and moving boxes around. I wasn't really getting anything done, but getting some paint on that Octurus orc terrain really helped kind of inspire me to keep pushing through it. If this is a hobby, it's not really your life, so there's nothing that's going to keep your foot to the fire to make sure you pay the bills using hobby or anything like that. It's we try to do this for fun. We try to keep ourselves entertained with it, but at the same time, you can get burned out from it if you've got a giant pile of plastic crack that's not moving any place, or too much resin to inhale in a weekly basis. So I know the things that really kind of push me through a hobby slump like I've been going through is finding a small goal that I can reach or something that I can push through. Upcoming events that are coming up is really a way to keep myself motivated. So like I said earlier, I'm trying to get this table done for the Texas sector events that we're going to be running. Everyone is looking forward to playing on it, so it's kind of keeping me motivated that way, and keeping the Texas sector admins updated as I go through is helping some. Keeping yourself constantly updating on Instagram or something like that, as long as it's not obviously detracting from the hobby time itself. Don't use Instagram to measure yourself against others, but use it to kind of keep yourself motivated to say, looking back through everything I've already done, this is what I can accomplish, this is what I can achieve, and keeping yourself motivated that way. What are some of y'all's ways to go through hobby slumps?
I'll be honest. I used to try to motivate myself with going, hey, cool, I can go to this next event and I can just update this, and then work on this, and then have everything ready for that. And due to my procrastination nature, I don't do that. I had an event that was going to this past Sunday or Saturday that I had stuff I needed to get done ahead of time, and I've ordered stuff, and I had some of the stuff arrive, and I didn't work on it because all the stuff hadn't arrived, and so it literally just everything sat and waited, and I still have stuff that hasn't arrived for this, and so I cannot say that I'm the best at doing anti-procrastination on hobby stuff and hobby burnout. But what I have discovered in the past for myself is that post events, I feel significantly more motivated to get stuff done than I do pre-events. Yep. So it's like, yeah, I just had a great weekend doing this, having fun with these guys. Man, I feel so stoked to do this. And then I kind of run on that energy for a little bit. And then when it runs out, I just kind of get meh. But doing the podcast with you all every Sunday or every other Sunday or however often we're doing it does give me time to sit down here and motivate myself to do stuff and more stuff and work on stuff. And I'm taking advantage of that tonight to doom scroll Facebook. So there we go.
I'll say picks. I mean, I know getting ready for events is nice and a good motivator and whatnot, but pick something you want to work on at that point in time. If something's a drag for you right then, I mean, I'm horrible about having multiple projects going on and things sitting on the shelf, but I'm always generally working on something, because if I get burnt out on a piece or an army or something, I have other things I jump across, and it's nice to finish something here or there. But I mean, the fact is, we've talked about make sure you're enjoying the hobby, right? It's not a business for any of us. We know people that do commission painting, not for a living, but I don't want to do that, and I don't want to do that because I want to make sure this maintains a hobby and I'm having fun with it and enjoying it. And so, I set my own deadlines. I set what I'm going to work on. And it keeps me, that's what keeps me going sometimes is, okay, I don't want to work on this right now. Grab another project off the shelf. And Lord knows I've got enough models on the shelf to keep myself busy. And so that's, this Mandalorian model is absolutely that. I was not feeling the Blood Angels very much. I was switching gears on the other. I saw that model was released, boom, grabbed it in the hobby store, put it together, primed it up, and started painting on it. And I'm really having fun with it. It's testing my NMM on a different model. It's just something that's fun. The other thing I do a lot when I'm painting display pieces is, I'll get extra time at lunch, right? I eat my lunch, I get like an hour, and I eat my lunch in like 15 or 20 minutes. And so I've done various Patreons over time. I follow various artists on Instagram. I follow some high-end painting competition Facebook groups. And I just go through and I look at models. And Duncan knows I've been sharing some reference materials that I pick up here or there from classes or Patreons, or, just even looking at models and how other people are painting models and what they do with them and how they apply lighting. And everybody wants, one of the funny things is everybody's, what's your recipe for non-metal metallic? And the funny thing is, it has nothing to do with the recipe as much as it does with the light placement in the right place. And so, looking at reference pictures, looking at how people highlight and shade models, and, what realistic light is, and then how you can apply artistic style into realistic lighting and various things. And, just seeing what other people do and how they're doing it, and looking at their paint styles inspires me to keep working on stuff, sometimes. And, I should try this, or, I don't like this, but this might be really cool. So that's, some of my stuff.
I know with me, I kind of have like feast or famine, because I've always got like stuff. I've got like soccer in the fall and spring for my son, and then summer and this winter period. I guess now I don't really have anything, so I try to front load going into those 2 periods. So like I build up like a big queue of stuff that I've like kind of maybe like built and primed, and then have stuff to work through. Another thing I do is like I have a group of buddies that I get feedback from and see their what they're working on that gives me inspiration. Yeah. Another thing for me especially is like I choose what I call palette cleanser. And that is like I will pick a model that I just think looks cool, that may or may not have anything to do with like my army or Horse Heresy or anything like that. I just think it's a cool model, and usually what I will do is I will get something like that and try out new techniques that I'm either unfamiliar with, that I've seen other people use, or something I need to improve my own skills with on. So like an example, I have some knights, like knight models, and on those knight models I've tried different mixing techniques for paints. I've also done a lot of different stuff experimenting with bases and basing, like different basing techniques. I've also done stuff with reposing and making them more action orientated from like just the static knight. And so like I'm never going to use the knights, but they look cool, and they're like a good thing just to kind of get out of like Marines or whatever. Same thing. I've got BattleTech models, or from the new BattleTech game, or not new BattleTech game, but the new stuff they released from the Clanner set. I've got tons of those, and if I get bored, I just grab one of those and just paint up one of them for a different faction or something like that. Or like I'll add, if I want to teach myself how to work on different lighting or LED techniques, I'll get like I have spare rhinos. Wow, what a shock! I know. That I'll just grab one of those and try out different lighting stuff on it, because like that's kind of like one of my old school things that I've always done. Another thing I have that helps is that unfortunately I have, and I think most of us as well have the same problem, is that we have multiple like expensive hobbies. So
yeah.
Yep.
I'm not going to go into the hobbies, but there's stuff that I do. Like I play online video games with other guys here on, that are part of the Accountability Buddies, like Jacob, I play with semi-regularly. But I have stuff that I do every week too. So like I'm not modeling, I'll just do that, but I'll set a goal in that I want to get certain tasks done, and I'll, and then when I get bored with that, I'll come back over to, working in models or reading, learning about, different gaming skills, or not gaming, tabletop skills. So it kind of keeps you on your toes, because you're not always just stuck in a rut. You're kind of changing things back and forth. I know it seems a little scatterbrained, but it just kind of keeps things fresh, let's say.
Sure, absolutely makes sense to me. I know there's sometimes when I'm trying to concentrate on something, I just feel like I've hit this giant cliff of knowledge that I don't have, and I'll go back and either scroll through a little bit of Facebook and try to get inspiration for how I can move past where I'm stuck, or spend hours on YouTube trying to watch different ways to do things like that. So definitely looking for other hobbies that can kind of move the juices in a different direction, and that's usually when your brain opens up and allows you to do more thinking.
Yeah. And another weird thing I do is like I keep a little really, really small like paper notebook with me at work. So and like if I'm not also just like doing other hobby stuff, and like if I see something that like kind of like piques my interest, like skill wise or something like that, or a different way of doing something, I might take notes just so I'll remember it when I have something to come back to and say, hey, I need to go back and look at this more or something like that. But like the thing that helps me the most is just other people doing stuff in the hobby. It's kind of like guilt shaming that, they're doing this stuff. I don't want to kind of like be left out of the crowd. You know what I'm saying?
I hear that very well.
Another thing is listen to an audiobook or listen to a podcast to read some lore, right? You know, that I have to say that I get inspired just to do anything with a hobby sometimes by listening to, you know, some lore about Horus Heresy. And it, you know, even if it doesn't have anything to do with what I go into to paint, right? It just gets your juices for the game going, which, you know, gives you that, you know, that extra energy to sit down and turn the TV off and sit down at the hobby table. And if I'm not chatting with somebody when I'm sitting at the hobby table, I usually have an audiobook going. So
I wouldn't, for me, the audio dramas, because they're a little bit more faster pace, I would say, you know, because some of the book stuff can really drag. I know not to drive listening. Some of the audio books, like if you're driving long distances, I've had issues where I might be listening. Like an example was like, I think it was like Thousand Suns audiobook. And I used to have to not commute, but I was driving back and forth between Atlanta and Birmingham because of where I worked in my future now life worked. And so I would get like GW audio drama, not dramas, but books, and listen to them. And like if I was coming back on a Sunday night to listen to one of those, it's like I'm pulling off at a rest stop because I'm falling asleep. Just the cadence.
Yeah, and whenever what's his name? I forget the author, when he goes, man, that's when I get inspired to. I could stay awake then, but yeah, otherwise, if he's just describing marching orders or other crap like that, yeah, I'm turning it off.
I tell you, I think I'm going to go in the other direction, and I mean, I think you obviously need to try to avoid the hobby slump, but I think you have to accept that it's going to happen too. Yeah. You know, they're unavoidable at certain points. I mean, if I just look at this little chat room, you know, look at the general age of all of us, and you know, all the things
calling me old again.
Is that old?
We. But you know, I mean, like we're guys that have, you know, we've got families, you know, we have jobs, we've got responsibilities. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of dads and mom listeners of this podcast. You know, I mean, you can't always dedicate the hours you need for the hobby. Now, ideally, you're going to sit down for like an hour or half an hour a day, something productive. One of the things that I've found, I just got back into, you know, I've got my little side project podcast, and I took like a 2.5 month break between episodes 3 and 4, largely because just I was uncertain about it. I was very busy with work. But one of the things I realized is that a lot of the things I was doing to fill my time were just time wasters. So I was like, okay, well, if I'm not going to model, or if I'm not going to fix that recording that I started, then I'm going to do something like another thing that was going to, like, I'm going to read a book, or I'm going to, you know, be outside more with my kids or something else. Like I just had to do something that was entirely avoiding the time waster stuff. So at least I felt like I was creating something. Like if you're going to avoid the things that you know you want to do, that you enjoy doing, and that you feel good while doing, then at least find something that's at least equivalent towards you getting someplace, you know, you being productive or you being happier. Because it's really easy, you know, like you get home at 5:30, 6, put the kids in bed, sneak out of the kids' rooms at like 9:30, and you're exhausted. You work for a couple of hours, and then you got a little bit of time to do something. It's way easier to turn on the TV than it is to pull out the paints. And that's okay. But, you know, if you can avoid wasting those 30 minutes, or just make yourself go to bed early instead, at least make sure it's productive. But also allow that it's going to be okay, that it's not always going to work. You're not always going to get the thing that you want to get.
I'm going to jump in and change gears a little bit, because Jameson said something that we haven't really talked about before. So talked about having a notebook and writing down things he wants to try, or notes or things like that. So I started, and I have a notebook, and it's sitting here next to us at the hobby table, and it's got all my notes for my classes in it, which, interesting, I started at the back of the book and started working forward because I'm a goofball. And then I have like all my little scale 75 inserts and some how-tos and various things. But one of the things I did after the last class, I went to one of the digital classes actually, is I went through and I took all of these notes, and I sat down at the computer and I read them, and I tried to remember what they said, and I tried to remember colors and different things and put them all into a Word document. And so I have my painting reference Word document where it's just me going through and all the notes from all my classes and some recipes and various other things I've put together, that, you know, I'll go through back and read and add to every now and again. And it's, you know, as a Word document, I can email back and forth between work and home and always have a digital copy of it on a USB drive or whatever like that. I don't have to physically carry a notebook around, but I've got that document that's kind of my painting knowledge built into a document. So I don't know if that helps anybody or not, or it's just how my brain works, but something that might help.
Yeah, I've heard that from like writers and things like that, where always keep something to keep your brain occupied. So that way, you know, if your brain goes somewhere you want, you know, obviously I always joke the best lie I've ever told myself is I'll remember that later. So keeping something to remind it down is always a good idea. Anything else? Or are we ready to move on to the event coverage?
Jack, you got any input?
It's okay to be burnt out. It's 100% okay to be burnt out. It happens to everybody. Don't let it get you down. You'll find your muse at some point, and it's just life. That's all I got.
Beautiful.
I've got my muse. He's sitting third in a row at the top here with a beautiful shiny head, a long beard, and sexy glasses, staring at me. Not you, Jack. Sorry, but the other guy. It's Duncan. It's you.
Hey, damn it! I was gonna take my glasses off. So
He's trying to take his glasses off, dummy.
Well, I'm glad that I inspire you to some form of mediocre hobby level. So go forth and say no more, my child.
Not to be confused with trademark the mediocre modeler, because
yes, not to be trademarked for that. So I guess at this point it's time to talk about the event from this weekend.
Do it.
Oh,
so Duncan, I heard you went to an event this weekend. Where was it?
This event was up in Martinsville, Indiana, at a place called the Battle Barn, which is in fact right beside the residence of our hobby friend Ryan Kimmel. It's also owned by Ryan Kimmel. And
we've talked about the Battle Barn before, but I'm not 100% there.
I'm sure we have. I'm just trying to, spin this.
Paint a picture with words.
Yeah, paint a picture with words. So we went to the Battle Barn.
Who threw on this event, Duncan?
This event was thrown together by our semi-regular host, Jake, who is not here tonight because his microphone is decided to sell its soul to the garbage can guy, and it needs to be replaced. So that's why he's not here. But he was hosting it. It was being hosted by the Indiana 30K group. And Saturday morning at sometime shortly after 5:30, I woke up. And it's 5:30 in the morning, and started to gather stuff to get it ready to take to Martinsville. And I went and started getting dressed, and went and used the bathroom, and left my phone in the car or in the bedroom with my stuff. And some dude just kept calling me, blowing my phone up, calling me and texting me and texting me and calling me. And then I finally answered, and it turned out it was Jack saying, "Hey, I'm in your driveway waiting. Where are you?"
Hold on. Wait, you went to the bathroom without your phone?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I was at. I was like, who does that?
You some sort of psycho or what?
What type of creep does that?
I just, honestly, I was sleepy. I hadn't had any coffee yet, and I forgot it. It was in the pants pocket, and I'll be honest, the pants were laying on the floor in the bedroom.
Also, called you 3 times.
I said that. You called me, and I could not get up and go get the phone because for some reason I was slightly occupied.
Because for some reason you left it in another room. What were you doing in there? Were you reading the shampoo? Like, what's in the shampoo bottle?
Actually, I have a book in the bathroom.
Dude,
I know.
That's like so
man of
like
culture.
90s. Like, what's going on, man?
I'm sorry. I'm a child of the
Is
past.
it a Calvin Hobbes cartoon book? Because everybody should have a Calvin and Hobbes cartoon book in their bathroom. To be fair,
it's not a Calvin and Hobbes book. It's actually one of the Honor Harrington novels. I've been going through it since I have the entire series in Dead Tree version. I've been going through and doing a reread.
But anyway, tell us about your trip up there, Duncan.
So I finished my business in the bathroom, and I walked out to carry my stuff out to Jack's truck, and he said, if you had waited like 5 more minutes, I was going home and going back to bed. And I was like, you person. And we got in the truck, and we headed up to Indiana, and we were driving through Kentucky, also known as God's country, and it was perfectly fine. And we were having our wonderful, typical conversations about absolutely nothing of importance during our drive. And then, pretty much shortly after we hit the road into Indiana, it became whiteout snow condition, and I don't know why. I mean, it didn't snow down here where it was supposed to, but it sure as all get out snowed up there. And we're driving.
It's winter.
This is November, sir. This is fall.
It's not winter. It's not winter. I hate to break it to you, buddy.
This is fall.
Like, Dan, it was like, not literally, I'm not kidding. On Friday here, it was 90 degrees. Like today, like it barely got up to 42.
But that's the 90 degrees is the exception. The other is what it usually is around.
Not here.
I'm in Chicago. We have August and winter, so it is winter here.
We don't have that around here.
Not here.
We
And I don't know why anybody would live where that's the case.
Thank you, Jack. That's a very reasonable statement.
Because people pay me and let me afford to buy silly toys for hobbies like this.
Well,
That's why.
Hey, John, where do you live?
The best state in the entire universe, Texas.
And people pay you
universe?
to buy your toys down there, right?
Absolutely. I could actually live wherever I wanted to because I can work from home.
So as a man that can work from home, that appreciates the finer things in weather, you're down south.
Absolutely.
All right.
My wife has told me that we can move anywhere we want as long as it's not above the Mason-Dixon line.
There we go.
Connecticut.
There we go. So we drove up in whiteout conditions, and this is how bad it actually got. Was Jack had to throw it in 4x4 for a little while because the back roads that lead to Martinsville were in a remarkably sad and unplowed and unsalted state. And
They got wiggly a couple times.
yeah, there was ice on the front of the truck. There was ice flying off of vehicles that were going the opposite direction.
There's still ice on the truck today, a day later.
I'm not surprised. At one point during this trip, Jack said that if ice flew off of a truck and landed on his windshield, we were going to call it quits and turn around. Because that actually happened to us a couple of years ago, leaving Adepticon after a freak ice storm. And during our trip, Jack, did ice land on your windshield from a passing vehicle?
It almost did.
Yeah, but finally we made it to the hobby mecca that is the Battle Barn, and we saw many friends who were there. Jake, Nick, Alec, Mike, and Brad, a number of others, and we all hung around and BS'd for a bit and did nonsense, waiting for a couple other people to show up, including our close and wonderful friend Joe and David Sampson, who also showed up eventually with Joe. So then we finally got everything set up, and we had a 3-game schedule that Jack and I were initially thinking we would probably leave after game 1, maybe after game 2, because of the weather if it kept snowing. It snowed basically through game 1, and then it kind of stopped and started melting, and everything was fine. So we ended up playing for all 3. Jack, I've talked this whole time. Why don't you talk about your first game, and then I'll talk about my first game.
Well, the setup of it is fairly loosey-goosey. Basically, they pick a loyal side and a traitor side, and then they'll go, please, will more people be traitors because we have too many loyalists. And that's how I ended up with Old Springs on the traitor side, because I'm just there for a good time. I'm there for a good time. I'm there for a long time. And I'm there for a deep time. And that doesn't sound.
Yeah. Well done.
So it was side 1, side 2, and they kind of alternated. Pick one side picking an opponent. I got picked by a Old Springs player whose name I do not remember because I am horrible with names. I'm going to call him Dave. Let's call him Dave. He had Old Springs list of Fulmentaris, Caesarians, couple tax squads, apothecaries, Sicarian Omega, Sicarian Aqua, and then Honor Temeculalis, Lakalikulax. There we go. The name Dreadnought character. We played on Ryan's Rust table. For those that have never been to Ryan's house, he has probably the best collection of terrain and tables that I've ever seen. the terrain on this table was so thick. Probably should have been more of a Zone Mortalis table than a actual battlefield where I was putting out land raiders and whatnot. So it was a good game. I haven't seen Full Mataris in action yet, even though I have some sitting on my table over there. They were good. Lots of shooting. I haven't played since Music City Heresy, so I knew I needed dice. That's all I knew I needed for today, or for that day. So he soundly handed me my rear end, but I had a good time. Duncan, do you want to talk about your game one?
Certainly. So my game one was against. Unfortunately, I also am terrible with. So I played a game against one of the indie locals named Bob. That's his name for today. He's also apparently a listener. So listener Bob, who I played and whose name I cannot recall because I'm a moron. Hi, thanks for a really good game. He brought his salamanders, and they were really nice. It wasn't fully painted yet, but what was painted was definitely solid. Definitely enjoyed that. My list was a pack of 10 jump reavers with a chaplain and an apothecary, a pack of 10 regular reavers in a Proteus with a master of signal and an apothecary. They were in the Proteus, like I said. A pack of 10 chieftains with the praetor in a Proteus, a pack of 10 despoilers with an apothecary in a rhino, 2 contemptors with fist and the chum guns, and 3 land speeders. So my game with him was fun. We had 6 objectives, 3 that he placed, 2 that I placed, and then we had 1 dead center. And the ones that were outside of your deployment zone, which all of them were movable by 6 inches once you had a model with a weapon skill and a movement in touch with it. So he got first turn, and he hopped onto 2 of them and was dragging them around, and he shot my poor despoilers out of their rhino by mobilizing it on his very first shot, and my despoilers ran up and set on another objective, and eventually ended up going and playing tag with a tactical squad unit of his that was running around on an objective. He had, like I said, 2 attack squads, 2 contemptors, a Arcus, 2 predators, a pack of the fire guys for the salamanders, the ones with flamers that can also pretend to be meltaguns, led by some special character who's also a psyker, and then a pack of pseudo fire drakes with a praetor inside of a Proteus as well. And it was a lot of good back and forth. I ended up pretty much clearing 3/4 of the table off because while he had shooting, I had 3 land speeders. Oh, and he had 2 land speeders. And my land speeders chose specifically to target off his heavy sport as quickly as possible, and then just be used to harry other stuff to death, including just spending like 2 turns shooting at a tactical squad, just taking off 2 or 3 guys at a time, 2 or 3 guys at a time, 2 or 3 guys at a time. I ended up controlling more objectives for longer periods of time than he did, and I killed more stuff than he did, and pretty much most of my killing stuff was in hand-to-hand combat. So it ended up with, I think, 32 or 31 to 21, my favor. So it was a fun game. Definitely got me to knock some of the rust off on some of the things that I've kind of sort of been letting lie and ignoring. And it was the very first time in this edition that I fought a psyker, and I was not impressed. So there's that. Jack, game 2 for you?
Game 2, a little bit about my list, and I should have probably explained the first thing. I'm playing Wolfrings, like I said. 2 Contemptors, a Leviathan, a Sicarian Punisher, 2 Land Raiders with las cannons, some suzerains, couple tax squads. You get the idea. Praetorians on the second game. Second game was against a young man who I'm pretty sure he said his name was Dave. At least that's what I remember him telling me. It's not often you run across 2 Daves in a row, but you can't go wrong with. Great guy. He made me realize something, that World Eater players are really just Space Wolf players in denial, because he was very much a avid World Eaters player. Even had a blood-soaked tuxedo for some type of ball he went to, but who's playing Space Wolves this day. Really interesting list. Had a Whirlwind Scorpion, Dare Deal with Plasma Blast, 2 Land Raiders with Las Cannons, Vanguard Terminators, or whatever you call them, and then Indominus Terminators, which you really don't see that often. Everything was Terminators. Good game. Basically, this boiled down to melee combat in the center of the table. He ended up winning on that one because it was table quarters, and because I had a lack of anything effective outside of my Caesarians to kill Terminators, I couldn't kill off anything off the other end of the boards. But he's a good guy. He ended up leaving right as soon as he got done game 3 and gave me his little tickets for prizes. So look forward to seeing him there. I know he has plans of playing again. He was also showing his buddy who hasn't played for 5 years, Heresy, who his buddy may or may not been on the run from the cops. Not really sure if that was a joke or not, but it was very entertaining listening to those two go back and forth about it. And then I was treated to watching Duncan on the table behind me playing with the guy that I played round 1. So Duncan, what do you think about Full Mentaurus?
Before you jump into that,
Uh-oh.
I just want to throw out there that I think your comment about the World Leaders players and Space Wolf players, they all just really want to be Tyranid players and to just have a whole swarm of Gene Stealers on the table. But because Tyranids didn't exist in a Heresy, they have to do something else instead. And so that's Space Wolves and World Leaders.
Well, it's funny that you say this because one of his other armies was in fact Tyranids.
Fair.
Speaking as a World Eater player, I personally feel insulted. So I've never played Tyranids, and I never will play Tyranids because I don't believe that 40k exists. I'm currently stuck in the past, just like a proper grumpy old man.
See, I just started before 30k existed, so that's where I played Tyranids and would put 100 Gene Stealers on a table, including the Inquisitor Gene Stealer that was my Hive Tyrant. So
there you go. So my game 2 was I played what did you say his name was, Jack?
Dave.
So I played Dave, who Jack played round 1 and round 2. And yes, he had Fulmentaurus, and he had a Plasma Sicaran, and he had a Sicaran Arquois, and he had Caesarians inside of a Proteus, and he had 2 tactical squads with attached apothecaries, of course, and he had characters with the Caesarians, Honored Telemachus, and a Partridge and a Pear Tree. Oh, and a Kratos. Pay attention, that Kratos becomes very important. So the one thing I can really happily say about all that shooting is that we had the whole thing in the center of the table, the round, you can't be within this area, and you had table quarters that were deployment. So he deployed right up against that edge, as close to that as possible, because all of his shooting is very close range, other than the last cannons on the Proteus and the autocannon in the Kratos. And I deployed...
One question.
Yeah.
What was this Kratos equipped out with?
Melta cannon.
Melta? Okay.
So he deployed pretty much as close up to there as he could. And there's a lot of terrain on this table, which is really important for me, because he deployed as close as possible. And I hugged the edge away from him and out of range as long as I could, because I didn't want to run screaming into that firepower just to get cut down before I could actually get to close combat. So turn 1, he moves forward, and he's just outside of range intentionally, pre-measured and everything to make certain that couldn't happen, or that he couldn't get me with very much. And the very much he could get me with was 1 speeder, and he killed the speeder. And then I proceed to hug that edge to behind some line of sight blocking terrain for most of my stuff. And I kind of split into 2 flanks so I could try to circle around stuff. And he had moved Telemachus forward. He had run Telemachus into some terrain. So I proceeded to give Telemachus the business. And with my speeder, my 1 remaining speeder, because in his shooting phase, he killed 2 speeders. One with the splinter missiles from the Fulmentaurus. One with another thing, last cannons and the Kratos shooting it. So Telemachus comes in the terrain. My Jav Speeder gives him the business, causes two wounds, and he then proceeds with his return fire to eradicate my final remaining Jav Speeder, which is really detrimental to me because my speeders are like 3/4 of my firepower, which should tell you how much shooting I don't have. So we dance around. He keeps trying to get to line of sight, and then he'll mobilize his vehicles to where he can't actually move them any further, and I just kind of avoid their line of sight as much as I can. I end up killing his plasma Sakaran with Land Raider putting a lucky last cannon into it. He eradicated most of my chieftain squad when the Fulmintaris finally got to fire their big plasma missiles at them, and all but 3 of my models, including my Praetor, because I tried to tank a couple wounds on him, it didn't work very well. He wiped all but 3 of them. 1 Reaver squad got eradicated, but my Jump Reaver squad, who hadn't taken a single casualty, managed to land right in front of his Fulmintaris. And I managed to pull off a 9-inch charge through terrain into the Fulmintaris with my 3 remaining chieftains. And he had the option to sit there and return or to Overwatch, and he was waiting for the Reavers to come in because he was just going to get there and give them the business. And my chieftains, as the first declared charge, made it into close combat. So he didn't get to fire his Overwatch into the Reavers. And my Reavers, with those 3 remaining chieftains, wiped that squad entirely out in 1 round of combat. I was very proud of them. But it's a close combat unit with Reavers and lots of power axes and power fists and the Thunder Hammer and hatred because of the chaplain. So it does its business, and it did it well. And he ate my 2 contemptors with his Suzerain squads, but it took 2 turns to do it. And at that point, he was going to pile all his guys back into his Land Raider and come hunt my Reavers. And then his Land Raider immobilized itself on some terrain, and my Reavers were too far away for him to shoot and got behind his Arcus. And I was getting ready to fire into it, and that was the bottom of 5. I had the remaining surviving chieftains over in a neutral corner. I had my Reavers in his corner, and he had nothing left there. And we had Jake roll to see if the game was going to continue, and it didn't. And that was the end of that. So I won that one 3-2, I think, something like that. Some ridiculously small number, but it was a good game, really tight. And I'm very proud of how well his Kratos did, because his Kratos killed 2 Marines and a land speeder. Definitely made every one of its points back. Yep. Oh,
400 point tank took out 2 Marines and a land speeder.
Yeah. And I want to make certain that everyone remembers this. Those 2 Marines that died were a sergeant from the Despoilers who had a power fist who punched a hull point onto it, and a Mook who was with him that had a chainsword, and that was it. But they got that darn Jav Speeder, and they got those 2 Mooks. And by gosh, that was well worth it. Jack, how'd your game 3 go?
See here, game 3 was against a Iron Hands player. What was his name? I think it was Dave, but I think his nickname was Joe, aka Defender of the Stars, also known as our buddy Joe. He was running 60s Immortals on foot with 3 Contemptors and 2 Leviathan, and it was a very, very, very fun list to play.
It sounds very, very thematic. Yes.
But everybody had their heads, so there was that. He, for some reason, he didn't like my Leviathan, so he shot that a lot, and he walked forward, and then he had a more tap with haywire guns. Yeah, that wasn't fun. He blew up my Leviathan. Luckily, I was able to walk my Leviathan right by his infantry, so when it blew up, it killed more blowing up than it did shooting by itself. So there was that. And then we ended up in a big slap fight with my Caesarians, Praetor with his Leviathan, and then he marched in a Contemptor, so it was a Leviathan, a Contemptor, and my Suzerains, and then he tried to charge in his Forge Lord. Yep. And it was a 4-inch charge. He rolled a 3. He wasn't very happy with that. I thought it was great fun because then I last cannoned him to death because I didn't want that in there. By the end of the game, the Caesarians came out with 3 members left over in the Praetor, and the Leviathan was gone, the Contemptor was gone, and it only took roughly about four turns of game for all that to happen. Meanwhile, his Contemptor on the other, or his Leviathan on the other side of the field, was just having a great time destroying everything. Because my army definitely lacks punch to take care of 2 Leviathans in one list, and 3 Contemptors, and a Forge Lord, and 60 Immortals. My list definitely could not handle all of that at once. Mainly the Leviathans. But it was fantastic. I've known Joe now for many, many years, and this was first time I ever got to play him. So it was fantastic. If you ever get a chance to play Joe, please do yourself a favor and play Joe. It was honestly fantastic, and I had a blast playing it. Duncan, I know you played somebody that we know locally.
Yes. My third round was against Bradley. Bradley Given, one of the local guys here in Lexington. Good guy, solid guy. I love his paint work he's done with his Imperial Fist. They're really good. I think he may also listen to us. I'm not really sure, but if so, hey Brad, thanks for a wonderful game, brother. I really appreciate it. He brought the business. He had his HQs were full of Imperial Fist stuff with lots of Solarite power gauntlets everywhere. He had tactical squads with Solarite power gauntlets. He had 10 last cannons. He had 10 heavy bolters with with some guy who had a Castellan who had an autocannon. He had a Contemptor with assault cannon and an assault cannon in the fist. He had Templar Sword Brethren. He had the Templar dudes that have shields. He had a jump attack squad with his Praetor, and he had a single quad mortar. And we played on the Rust table that Jack talked about earlier, and we had terrain everywhere, and we had Night Fight run for game turn 1 and game turn 2. So I was able, with the incredibly dense levels of terrain that we had there, to block all line of sight that he would have had out of inside of 24 for the first 2 turns. So most of his shooting could not happen because I was literally just using all the terrain possible to leave myself no chance of getting pot shot while I closed the distance to get in there. I did get a turn 1 charge. It was really nice. He moved a Rhino up into no man's land for my sorry, it wasn't turn 1 charge, it was turn 2 charge for my Reavers to be able to sit there and hit with my jump Reavers to jump forward and then melt a gun to death the Rhino and his guys piled out the back. And I did not, unfortunately, get a chance to charge them because I had a little bit too much distance. But turn 2, he brought the shield guys out to play. My jump Reavers went over there and jumped on them and started punching them around, slapping those guys down. I don't think the shield guys survived 1 round of combat, and then he charged them with a Contemptor, and it became ye standard Contemptor slap fight. His Templar Sword Brethren got to do a reaction charge when I was going to put one of my Contemptors into charge range with a regular squad of vets, or with the regular squad of Reavers who were going to charge them. And he did his advanced reaction, and he charged into my Contemptor. And so he got a charge, and at the same assault phase, I got 3 charges on him and the Templar Brethren and that Reaver squad and that Chaplain all ended up, and that Contemptor and the land rat, or the land speeder that jumped in there as well, all sat there and slapped around one another for 2 rounds. Then his assault squad jumped on them, and they ended up wiping the Reavers and the Contemptor and the speeder. And then they got charged by my other Contemptor and my other Reavers and shot at with last cannons, to where the only thing that remained after the last cannons fire into the 2 squads of the jump assault Marines and the Templar Sword Brethren was, I think it was his Praetor or one of his 2 characters that he had there. And that guy died to massive amounts of last cannon fire, eradicating all and missile fire, just wiping the squad finally out. And that we did not get to go a full 5 game turns. We got to the bottom of 4, and it was pretty much kill points And since I had done my level best to deny him access to killing anything for the first 2 rounds, he didn't get to shoot everything to death as he really had wanted. But I will say that his last cannon team was incredibly effective because it definitely prevented me from going anywhere near them. So it was a very good area of denial, and the area was anything it could see. His last cannons did, however, manage to destroy one very vital vehicle. They killed the Rhino that carried my despoilers, who yet again did nothing in all 3 games today or this weekend, and they did all but one of them survive the explosion of said Rhino. So well done. But that was pretty much the entire game or weekend for me, or week event for me. And then we had some chicken with the guys, and then we ended up driving home in the middle of the night. And the snow, thankfully, was not too bad. There was no more snow. Most of it had melted off the roads. And since Jack was the one who did the driving, I will let him finish out how everything went on that.
Before you jump into driving, so did the event have like an overriding like traitor versus loyalist narrative, or was it just basically so?
Yep.
How did that go? Who ended up taking the honors there?
So there was traitors versus loyalists, and there were so many traitors showed up to play the game at the beginning of the day that we had to balance everything by make some of the loyalist players come play for the traitor side, because there were like 3 traitors total who showed up. So it was really, really nice. Jack ended up playing traitors, and we had Nick, who played his Blood Angels, had to come play traitors as well, because I think the traitor forces were myself, Mike, who's a listener, and a guy who lives in Louisville, bringing his Sons of Horus, and I think one more person, and that was it.
Is that Mike that paints the Sons of Horus down there?
Yep, that is Mike who paints the Sons of Horus, and
he's been doing some nice looking paint stuff.
Yes, he does. And there was no overall storyline. That'll happen again next year. This was literally just hey, we haven't had a chance to play Heresy for a long time. Let's all get together and play Heresy together. And
that's cool. I was just curious if there was more to it.
No, not really.
Who did you guys win any of the prize stuff in the prize raffles?
Everybody won.
Everybody good.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
I picked up a set of Mark IV Marine weapons, which has my favorite power axe ever that I use on pretty much every power axe I use. Jack, what'd you get?
Mark IV Assault Marine.
There we go.
There you go.
So, Duncan, do you want to go over like recaps of what you thought about everything? Because I can tell you about the drive home. It was long, and we made it back to Lexington about 12:30. The bright side is neither one of us had to crawl underneath the truck to hit the transmission with a rock to get it to go into gear.
Was that the M5 by chance?
Yeah, I don't want to say names about anybody, crawling underneath anything to hit a transmission with a rock. I'm just going to say I'm glad it wasn't me.
Yeah, or me.
Because and your GPS actually took you back to where you're supposed to go instead of just some random place.
Look, I don't know what Waze is. Like, I know it's a thing. I've never used it before. I like to think that I know how to get from point A to point B fairly well.
Are you a MapQuest guy? Do you still print out maps?
No, we've just been to Ryan's enough times.
No,
we know how to get there.
I know.
Yeah, no, it's Google Maps the first 2 or 3 times, and then it's this. Oh, this is the way we go now. So that was the trip home. Duncan, I'm gonna go over a little bit what I thought about units, and you can fill in from there.
Please do.
The Kratos in my first game, he put some wounds on a dreadnought or 2, and then he blew up a Rhino, if I remember everything correctly. That was about it for the Kratos. For the number of points he probably stuck on it, wasn't really worth it in my book. You definitely need it if you're going to go one way or the other in an army. I think you need to either decide if you're doing a lot of shooting or a lot of bodies. I'm trying to balance that line, and I just don't have enough to effectively put up a fight for much of a game. Once I get tied down in the initial close combat, I tried the Nemesis destroyer squads for Ultramarines, their specialty unit. They were man. I had them in a Land Raider. It might be better if I put them in a termite and have them pop up behind people and kind of cause havoc in the back lanes.
That's a Nemesis bolt. Are they armed with Nemesis bolters?
Yeah.
Yeah, they've got a special.
They're like huge range. Wouldn't you? It almost seems like you'd be better off.
It was
just
only,
putting one.
And
I thought it was only 18.
It's a special type of unit that was from the PDF, not the Legacies PDF, but the Exemplary Battles PDF.
Yeah.
But isn't a Nemesis bolter? Is it the same Nemesis bolters in the book though, or no? Oh,
no, it's different.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. The Praetorian Guards, 4 Ultramarines. They're nothing special to write home about. Full Mataris, I will be finishing up my units of Full Mataris because they were decent. Yes, Duncan, I love you too, Duncan. I love you too, buddy.
You're number one? He's your number one?
I am number one. I am
making me question because I've got all these units in my to be built, except for, well, I'm technically working on a second unit of Full Mataris, but yeah, the other 2 units I'm really curious about.
John, you have like literally Ultramar and Calf. So like there's nothing Ultramarine you don't have.
Yeah, but depending on how good the unit is, depending on where it goes in the queue.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and review the same thing you just fought there. Kratos was not worth it. The Plasma Sicaran, not worth it. The Arcus, yeah, it's an Arcus, man. Those things do solid work and have done solid work for a while. The Suzerains, yeah, they did solid work. I mean, they killed 2 Contemptors to a loss of like 4 dudes. They do their job.
Any Whirlwind Scorpius?
Nope.
One. I played against one. It put wounds down.
Yeah.
The Fulmentaris, they're short range, but their long range gun with those missiles, the splinter missiles or whatever, being like heavy 4, some nonsense, they put serious weight of fire down with that ballistic skill 5 on those, and those did work.
Did you find the line of sight not required helping all that much? Or?
No. He just shot a stuff and it died when he finally got in range. But those Fulmentaris, when I finally got my my close combat squad into them, that weapon skill 4, when you see so much weapon skill 5 everywhere, it did not help him at all. All those power fists.
All fists? They have all fists?
But they had fists on the models. And all of his stuff was striking last. And I will tell you point blank, none of his stuff survived to strike. Or what he did strike with was ineffective because he didn't call us. He killed 1 Reaver in close combat, and then everything else died. So he didn't even get to make a break test because it all just fell to death. Yeah,
they come stock with a power weapon, and you can buy them fists. So I might be chopping some fists off of my guys and keeping them cheap.
Yeah, if you're going to do that, go ahead and put something, I don't know, maybe power maces, power mauls, something.
Yep.
I mean, but
my 6 have the power mauls because that was the old standard. I think I cut the sergeant off and put a fist on him.
Yeah, I'd go with maybe 1 fist in the unit, but it didn't help when you get a 10-man Reaver squad who has 3 power axes, 6 chain axes, a fist, another fist, 2 more power axes, and a thunderhammer from a chaplain, all rolling into you with hatred and an average of 5 attacks on the charge. Those guys aren't going to really survive.
Yep.
Jack, other effectives or ineffectives from your list?
Leviathans are, if you put a Leviathan in your list, just be ready for it to be fired at by everything that can be fired at. That's just literally what a Leviathan.
You walk it or drop it?
I walked it across the board just to match everything else in my army. I didn't have anything dropping. Yeah, no. Volkite for Contemptors. I still like Volkite. I think autocannons are better. I'm waiting for bits to come in for autocannons to put that thought process to paper, to physicality. And Thunderhammers are no joke. And I don't think anybody understands Brutal yet as a whole, because over the course of this weekend, I was told how it worked 2 different ways. And I'm not going to say either way because I don't want somebody lashing onto that one thing. But I can't wait till we as a community get to a much better place and everybody is understanding the roles, and putting paints to models and all that good stuff. Duncan?
Thunderhammers ain't no joke. Anything that can take a thunder hammer needs a thunder hammer.
Was Nick there this
Yeah,
weekend?
Nick was
Yeah.
there with his Trader Blood Angels because he came over to play Traders.
Okay.
But his Blood Angels with that the combination of all those jump troops and the Fury of the Ancients that's not really abusive. It's a fun and flavorful list. I fought that a few weeks ago, and Nick plays a good game. He plays a hard game. It's a nice and very, very friendly way of playing Fury of the Ancients. But
I know he's talked about like ways to make it so that it's not as abusive. I mean, I know he's gone over it with a lot of people trying to find a way to take it, but not make it just like totally OP, brutally, what you would expect it to.
Yeah. And I'm actually going to make some changes to my generic 3K list based purely on the game with him and then the 3 games yesterday. I hate to say this, but my Despoiler squad, who I spent so much time on, is probably going to come out of that list.
You think so?
Oh, they're absolutely coming out. They were my 4th line unit, and they did nothing all game long, every single game they played, except slap on a tactical squad.
I think they 100% need support, and actually, I think the thing they need is a recon squad to snipe out a sergeant, so you can get Spite of the Legion. Otherwise, they are.
I don't disagree. They just seemed point ineffective, like a waste of points in the list overall. So I'm probably going to pull them out, and I may retool one Reaver squad into a Spartan with some of their points.
I think a squad for the same price, you just a tactical Marines with bolters that can stay a little bit farther away and at least shoot at something while standing on an objective.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. But I play a very aggressive set of Sons of Horus. So,
right.
I mean, my entire theory behind it is going to Spear Tip, and it's led by Horus Aximand. So
did I see in the chat that there was no Mechanicum at the event?
Not a single person.
Too bad.
Lemmy played his Knight list, and I don't know how his Knight list did against everybody else, but he played Joe in round 2, and Joe brought a Warhound Titan.
And then the rest was Immortals. His Warhound Titan got blown up round 1 or 2, but then apparently he gave Lemmy the business for the rest of the game. He said that the big drawback with Knights is that since they cannot be locked in combat, the thing everybody needs to remember is that means you're not locked in combat, so you're free to do whatever you want to do after that combat is over. So you can move past them to someplace else, or just stand there and shoot them, or do whatever you want to them. Apparently, he had the Mortat chasing around the Porphyrion in the backfield, and blew up the Porphyrion. He said that the super heavy explosions from the vehicles blowing up probably did more damage to his army than the Knights did.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, but his Lemmy, his Knights look beautiful. They truly, truly do. Unfortunately for Joe, his Warhound was a severe casualty of the event because it broke right after the game he played with it.
Oh no, really?
Oh, I think
lost his head.
I think that was actually he won that in a Toys for Tots auction too.
Yes, he did. It was painted by David Sampson.
Yeah.
Oh.
And this is now the second time it's broken. It broke when he got it home from no, it wasn't Toys for Tots. It was down at War Games camp down in Texas.
Yeah. No, but we did a Toys for Tots auction at War Games camp, I thought.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I didn't get to go, sadly.
Yep, that actually made quite a bit. It was we had a Warhound and a what's the big AdMech like huge cannon tank thingy?
Oh yeah, I thought it was the drill.
No, it wasn't the drill. It was the
Yeah,
what
you're
is
right.
it?
The
Yeah,
volcano.
it was the pulse cannon or something like that.
Or something Ordinatus.
Yeah, it's the big Ordinatus carriage. It was, I think it was the Sonic Lance versus the Thunder Cannon or the Volcano. And that,
Still, his Warhound died the second time it broke, so now he has to get it fixed again.
That sucks.
But that was the entire event, and it was fun. Good takeaways. Love hanging out with that crew up there. They've become very close friends. Look forward to seeing them again sometime in February, hopefully.
The Ula Tour.
So what?
The Ulator, is that the one you're talking about? Ordinatus Ulator. That's the one you can get on Forge World now.
It's one. There's two versions. There's one that has like a volcano cannon, and there's one that had like the Sonic Lance. And I think the Sonic Lance one was actually won by Scott's stepbrother, if I'm not mistaken.
JM.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, John.
Yeah.
And so you guys gonna do another event in February though?
So
cool.
In February on the 12th, they're doing
IndieCon.
that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Jacob will have to talk about it because I don't really know a lot about what's going on there.
Like, is it a GT or?
There's a GT at IndieCon,
Yeah.
and there's going to be a Heresy event at IndieCon. I don't know how many rounds. I don't know how many days.
Yeah.
I do know that apparently Jack will be unable to attend because he's going to fly out to Vegas, because what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. And I'm probably going to drive up there on my own, maybe with Mike in Louisville. I may talk one of the other locals into going if they want to go. We'll see. All I know is that it's going to be another Heresy event. By crikey, I'm going.
They're not doing anything Friday, but they're planning events all day Saturday and then half the day Sunday. Is the idea?
I'm gonna play by ear with that one. I'd love to make it down, but I'm still not sure on money for travel with paying for my big trip next summer going rock climbing out in Mexico. So I have to pay for that all up front. So it just depends on the budget. We'll see.
I hear you on that one.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about the budget on it myself, especially with it being so close with EPSCon. But
yeah,
I just want to go. I just want to see my friends and hang out with them and play Heresy. So I'm going to go no matter what I do.
Yeah.
I may end up trying to go to that because Adepticon's going to be a stretch because my kids' spring break is the week after, so I just can't take that much time off in a row. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
It's not that I can't go. I definitely have the days. It's just they kind of frown on me taking over a week of time off at a time.
Right.
So
I understand that people can't all come and see.
Well, I'll see you at Adepticon. That's all that I know. And I'll probably see you next week on the cast for recording.
For everything you make fun of me living in the winter, it is nice that Adepticon is my gimme convention because I'm 20 minutes away. So
that is definitely a perk.
I will say this. I do like where I live because it means I can go up, hang out in the Battle Barn. I can go down to NashCon. I could probably drive to Nova if I wanted to.
That's a bit of a drive from where you live.
It's only like 10 hours.
Yeah.
That's a day. I mean, you could at least do 10 in a day.
That's nothing. I've done 17 by myself.
Yeah, no.
Going from here to El Paso, Texas, or something like that.
See, I am very blessed in that I have a hobby buddy who goes to pretty much most of the same events I go to, and his name is Jack, and he likes to drive, and I like to pay for his gas, and
sounds like an awesome relationship.
All you have to do is put up with his giggling.
Lucas and I have the same. It's definitely helpful when you want to go to events and you're like, "Hey, let's split everything."
Yeah, I mean, Jack and I have been splitting stuff for events and going to events for years, and it works.
I used to have a couple of my friends used to live here, but they were both in the military, and once they got out, they moved away. So I lost that ability. But it's very nice to have when you have it.
I hear you on that one, brother. Anyway, I don't think we have anything else to talk about tonight, do we, gentlemen?
I think that we've definitely covered the event pretty well. We've covered everything else pretty well. And my name is John, and I've been joined by my accountability buddies this week.
Dan.
Again.
Jack.
Amy.
Ned.
And to stay accountable to yourself and to your buddy, and have a great night.